Que j'ai pour vous, donc dans un contexte de forte perception de risque vis-à-vis des marchés africains, comment des institutions telles que le Fonds africain de garantie et de coopération économique peuvent-elles jouer un rôle catalytique pour réduire les risques, attirer les capitaux privés et aussi renforcer l'intégration des systèmes financiers africains?
Thank you very much, the Vice President. You need to speak in English or in French or in Arabic?
French,
Great.
English,
I'm getting back in French.
All right. Gala, it's up to you.
OK. Shukran. Alors, très bien, madame. Je voudrais encore, comme dit le vice-gouverneur de la Banque centrale, remercier le groupe de la Banque africaine de développement pour cette invitation et cette opportunité. En tant que président du FAGAS, je réaffirme notre engagement de continuer à soutenir la BAD dans ses missions pour l'impact du développement en Afrique. Il y a un mot qui manque, c'est que la BAD fait également le développement, mais beaucoup plus de l'intégration et de l'inclusion financière en Afrique. Par rapport à votre question, madame, c'est très important. Toutes les institutions financières africaines doivent se rendre compte qu'est-ce qu'on a fait pour l'inclusion financière et quel impact cela a été donné. Le FAGAS, Fonds africain de garantie et de coopération économique, qui existe depuis 50 ans et qui est leader sur le marché africain en matière de garantie en Afrique au sud du Sahara, institution publique multilatérale africaine, nous travaillons pour ce que la perception du risque en Afrique change. Madame, si vous rencontrez, les gens pensent que l'Afrique est trop risquée. Mais c'est une information erronée. Les investissements en Afrique, tels qu'accompagnés par les fonds de garantie, donnent une rentabilité supérieure au taux d'intérêt, de loin. Aujourd'hui, il fait bon investir en Afrique qu'ailleurs. Mais comment il faut faire? Nous devons travailler dans la vision actuelle de la Banque africaine de développement sur la nouvelle architecture financière africaine, qui signifie également que nous devons mettre en place un nouveau écosystème à base complète, parce que les institutions financières africaines travaillent chacun de son côté. Le FAGAS, sa mission, c'est de dérisquer, de changer la perception de risque, de partager les risques avec le secteur bancaire, le secteur financier, et pour permettre et favoriser les investissements structurants des États et accompagner les PME. Cette mission, je pense que nous partageons la même vision avec la Banque africaine de développement et les autres institutions de garantie et d'assurance. Comment nous devons être complémentaires que concurrents. C'est ça le plus important. Et en matière de garantie, madame, tous les fonds de garantie africains ne couvrent pas 10% des besoins garantis. Et sans garantie, aucun investissement crédible n'est possible. Donc le FAGAS, dans son rôle créé par les chefs de l'État de l'OCAM et le chef d'État et le gouvernement de l'OCAM, c'est pour accompagner l'accélération des investissements en Afrique. Vous vous rendez compte pourquoi le continent africain, tout le monde reconnaît que l'Afrique est potentiellement riche et pourquoi l'Afrique n'est pas financée. C'est un paradoxe économique. Si vous êtes riche, normalement vous devez attirer les gens qui viennent investir chez vous. La mission du FAGAS, c'est de travailler pour dérisquer, pour mitiguer les risques, pour que les gens viennent investir. Donc, seul le FAGAS ne peut pas faire ce travail tout seul. Je pense que mon frère de gauche, le DG Moses, nous travaillons ensemble pour ensemble mettre nos savoir-faire, nos intelligences, nos compétences et nos ressources au service du dérisking de l'Afrique. Donc, madame, nous sommes sur une même vision. Le continent africain et le gouverneur de la Banque centrale, les deux gouverneurs devaient en parler, c'est le taux de bancarisation, la faiblesse du taux de bancarisation. Il faut que ça change. Combien d'Africains ont un compte bancaire? Et c'est une honte. Et j'interpelle les gouverneurs qui sont ici pour que, non seulement dématérialiser, mais rendre gratuit l'ouverture de compte. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes dans la digitalisation. Je vais en Chine, le taux de bancarisation est autour de 120%. Pourquoi l'Africain, l'économie réelle de l'Afrique n'est pas financée? We need to move forward. Il faut que les agriculteurs et les éleveurs puissent être financés, protégés, garantis par le FAGAS pour que l'Afrique mange à sa faim. Donc, vous nous accompagnez, madame, vous êtes la BAD. Je pense que mes amis ici, Moses aussi, nous sommes tous engagés à pouvoir accompagner le financement de l'économie réelle pour que l'économie agricole puisse créer autant d'emplois et de richesses. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. L'inclusion financière et l'autobancarisation restent au cœur de nos discussions. So let me now turn to Mr. Manuel Moses, who is the CEO of ATD. So what would it take to unlock the insurance sector's potential as a source of long-term development capital? And how should it connect to the broader financial system?
Thank you, Madam, for that question. And again, I would like to congratulate the bank for putting this excellent panel to try and discuss all these very important matters. As my brother Yambai has already described, in the financial architecture of Africa, there is a need to integrate guarantees as one vehicle that could help to mobilize financing. I would like to thank the two governors who have already spoken, and they lead by example. In my organization, I can thank the government of the Central Bank of DRC for recognizing ATD's guarantees for a long time. And that has helped us to use our de-risking instruments to cover bank exposures in DRC. So well done to DRC. I also want to thank BDSC also for granting us a similar approval, whereby they've given us a risk weighting that allows banks that are lending to all these productive sectors to do more because we have given our risk guarantees. So thank you to the governors publicly. I want to thank you, and I'm encouraging other central banks in the room to do the same, because that's how we create a financial architecture that recognizes insurance and guarantees as part of the ecosystem. Now, coming back to the question of what should we do about the insurance sector, because we have this paradox that has been well articulated by President Sidi to say we have this paradox of $4 trillion of assets and savings in the continent. And yet we are saying Africa is capital poor. No. I think Africa has the resources. They are sitting in treasury bills. They are sitting in pension funds. We want to see how we can tap into that. So the core would be the regulators that manage pensions, savings, should take the lead from central banks who are here to say they should also put regulations that allow for those savings to be transported, transfigured, transformed through guarantees, of course, into the productive sectors. So a similar type of recognition is required that we can now tap into these savings and transform them into productive sectors. In terms of course, the logic has already been described by my brother Yambai here. Without the guarantor companies like ourselves, Fagas, FSA, who are highly rated, it is very difficult to convince regulators that the savings or the pensions of our population are safe. So we need recognition, and we are ready to deploy our tools to tap into that. I think the bigger message here is that Africa needs to finance itself first, and then Africa will then call the rest of the world to finance Africa. But we have the resources. If we rearrange ourselves under this NAFAD architecture, surely we can really move the needle. So this is my appeal and my submission. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much. Mr. Khalidou Gadjo. Mr. Khalidou Gadjo is the co-chair of the US Africa practice of the law firm DLA Piper. So, Mr. Gadjo, what are the most binding legal and regulatory bottlenecks to deep integrated financial systems in Africa, and what practical reforms would most quickly de-risk investments?
Thank you, Asatu. Yes, I think I am one of the few who would be not speaking on behalf of one particular institution. We, as a private practitioner, we advise, government, DFIs, and corporations. I had the opportunity to serve the bank in the past, so I'm very much familiar with the instrument of the African Development Bank as well as other institutions. Generally speaking, what we hear from private sector, why some investors are hesitating to come to Africa, they say a lot of things. Some of them are true, some of them not true. But basically, one of the constraints is the regulatory and the legal constraint. Regulatory in the sense that at the central bank level, they operate on the basis of certain type of constraint in terms of liquidity coverage ratio, which means they don't put enough resources for long-term use in project finance, which takes 10, 15, 20 years. So there are these bottlenecks, and some of them are actually from international institutions like Basel Accord, which also reinforce these kind of prudential ratios. So there need to be some discussions about how to improve that kind of constraints at the level. And that is true for sovereign-led fund, because most of these funds are, the main objective is preservation of the resources rather than investment. So as a result, throughout this annual meeting, you've heard Africa had close to $4 trillion, but they are not available. They're not available because they are stuck into all kinds of constraints, legal and regulatory. And also, if, for instance, Africa were able to authorize municipal financing, that would be helpful because obviously municipal financing is generally used for water, for instance, waste management. Some of these infrastructure in most of countries are financed out of municipal bond. But in Africa, with a few exceptions, it's not permitted to use municipal financing. Municipal financing, therefore, is a tool and is constrained. Then, of course, generally speaking, what we hear is that the perennial rule of law. And when foreign talk about rule of law in Africa, they're basically targeting 3 to 4 elements. They're saying that if you invest in Africa, the legal regime is not always stable because most of the time you sign a contract, you have a certain number of provisions, especially from the fiscal regime, and it happened to change. And that leads to litigation, and litigation is very expensive. So stability of the contract is very important. The second issue is also some level of predictability on the judicial. Obviously, if decisions are not predictable, it is very difficult to know really how to measure your risk. Therefore, that's again a constraint. Finally, we also have clients who have actually gone through the judicial process, who won cases but cannot collect. So enforcement is a major issue, again, in Africa. Not only it's difficult to go to the court, but if you go to the court, even if you win, sometimes you cannot enforce. So these are some of the constraints. Now, also, we observe that in most of infrastructure projects, there are models that use the PPAs and concessions. They're not always adequate because, as you know, most of infrastructure projects actually generate resources in local currency. So, and then they have to reimburse in foreign exchange. So, lawyers, of course, we craft the agreement so that we have like a foreign account. So central bank will step in. My two predecessor and colleague will know, the difficulty to get, approval of establishing foreign exchange account outside the country. So these are some of the problems. And now, of course, the solutions are there. One of the solutions is the word has been used fragmented. So therefore, the contrary to fragmented is unified. There are a certain number of unions in Africa, like UMOA, BEAC, and other regions. And I think this is the way to go, because in one market, like UMOA market, every country can borrow, so you can have a cross-border transaction, you can mobilize the resources. In terms of banking, and I think, again, the chairman or the governor mentioned that if you get a license in one country, You don't need another license in another country. So these are really practical solutions, and I think it can work only if there are further and more unified market. The last but not least, I think my two predecessors spoke about it. The perception of risk in Africa is not justified, but it is real. It is there. So therefore, we have to deal with it. One way to deal with it is precisely to offer them certain type of guarantees and insurances. Therefore, I think the role that, and it's not a surprise that the president of ADB is specifically mentioning ITD, is that because I think an institution like ITD, if properly funded, could actually mitigate a lot of risk in Africa, and therefore increase funding. So I think that's one of the solutions, and FAGAS is equally participating in the same scheme. So I would just stop here and just say that this is really what I think, from a private practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me now turn to you, Professor Carlos Lopez, who is the honorary professor of the Nelson Mandela School of Public Governance at the University of Cape Town. Professor Lopez, the structural reforms needed to strengthen Africa's financial systems are well understood. Yet, implementation remains slow. What is the most important political economic obstacle standing in the way, and how can it be overcome?
Thank you, Asatu. I think the points that have been made by my predecessors here in the panel, particularly Mr. Kadio, are excellent. And I think if we try to understand the structural reasons why we are still debating these issues all the time, because, the issues of risk, we debate all the time. The fact that we have 4 trillion has become a bit more prominent in the debate, but we have always said that we needed to mobilize more domestic resources and we needed to have more efficient fiscal machineries and so on. All of this is not completely new. What is now missing is to go a bit into the granular details of what needs to happen. And some of the points have been mentioned here, but I wanted to dig a bit deeper. For instance, let's take the Bank of International Settlements, Basel III regulations. I think they have been created basically to deal with the crisis of subprime. So what happened is that unintentionally, we de-risked Africa out of the global banking system, because we wanted basically to deal with the problem through prudential rules that are more robust. But then we basically created a penalty for Africa in liquidity. That was not the intention, but it is what is happening. And the reason is because we are not really sitting at the table most of these times where these issues are discussed, because we tend to be so concentrated on ODA and concessional lending that we don't deal with the structural issues. And I don't think it is any plot. Sometimes it's just not being present. And we need to be really conscious that a lot of these issues do require a different approach of partnership and a different discussion altogether. And I think we have to be a bit more specific on what the entry points are. And the entry points is the BIS committees, the Bank of International Settlement committees. Are we really having a proper participation there? Is the Financial Stability Board? Is the OECD export credit arrangements that sometimes undermine all the concessional facilities that we receive elsewhere, and things like that. So the prudential rules, we tend to deal with them the same way we deal with trade. We behave, because for us to be considered as good students, we behave when others are throwing the rule book. So they create the rule book, they throw it out, but we are the ones who are supposed to follow. If you are, it's no longer the case, on a structural adjustment program, you had to deal with, let's say, 100-something policy reforms. And then, when you end at the end of those reforms, if you are lucky, you really don't get liquidity as a result of it because the structural problem has not been addressed. So this is the dilemma that we have. And I think because we have that dilemma, we kind of have a hidden tax. And this hidden tax is not interest rates. That's the appearance of it. It's sort of the tip of the iceberg. The hidden tax is volatility pricing. Is the fact that our unpredictability, the point that you are making, our unpredictability has been ingrained in the way we deal with Africa. And our macroeconomic policies, as good as they have done to tame inflation, as it was just mentioned for the Republic of Congo, they are geared towards just meeting external obligations, not to deal with our own structural transformation. And by just being focused on one aspect, not the other, we end up being, incapable of dealing with the structural dimensions such as this hidden tax. Hidden tax is where? It's the foreign currency volatility. It's the refinancing risk. It's the legal uncertainty. It's the liquidity risk. It's the exit risk. It's all these things, these risks that we kind of put in the bag as, just a given, and we don't deal with each one of them, then we have this sort of hidden tax that comes as a result. And I think basically Africa is not paying for capital scarcity. I think we are paying for the absence of predictability. And unless we deal with the predictability, we'll continue to tackle the wrong, sort of target. And I think this is really one of the major problems. And guarantees will go a long way to address some of these problems. And I think it has been understood very correctly as one of the priorities. Another one is how we deal with the rating agencies. And this is not an ideological debate. We should not go there and say, oh, we don't like the rating agencies. That is not producing any results. Neither, and this is a personal opinion, is it for us to create an African Union rating agency. That is also not going far. It's not going to produce results because the market doesn't react, with emotions or even less with obvious political positioning. An obvious political position, yes, it's there. But obvious? No, they don't accept. So the common critique that we have that the rating agencies are biased is correct. But what we really need to discuss with them is what metrics are they using. Some of them are pretty known and transparent to a point, but there is a lot that is subjective that needs to be discussed too. That is the part we have to concentrate on. So let's have a framework that is acceptable for us to enter into this type of discussions. And I think this controversy between Afreximbank and Fitch is actually helping because it's demonstrating the limits of the current approach. And I think it's demonstrating also that there is a lot of hidden concepts that don't make any sense. But then we have to go a bit further, and I think we have to be more sophisticated in our critique. For instance, we have to try to understand why is it that we are always structurally penalized in pro-cyclical moments. So you have a crisis, you have a shock, you have not produced it. It's like Lehman Brothers or the war in the Gulf or whatever. So we have the first shock. And then we have the second shock, which is all the evaluation of risk is rear mirror. It's looking at not your potential, but what has just happened. So you have a second shock. But this second shock is not given to everybody. That's why Ukraine will be treated very differently from Burkina. See? So we have to engage in that type of sophisticated discussion. Different metrics, different ways of looking into pro-cyclical. So we are not going to gain by just being sort of vociferous with proclamations. We need to be more specific. And I think that's the task before us. New financial architecture, new African financial architecture. Next step, what is it? It's to identify these granular elements that are going to unleash the potential because they are going to deal with the real constraints. These constraints that, as Gadio was saying, are structural. For instance, the fact that the mandate of a pension fund is impeding them from actually putting the money where we are saying they should. But let's deal with that mandate. And why is the mandate there the way it is constructed? Part of it is because of returns. So let's prove that the returns are possible elsewhere. That is an instrument. It's not because of a project. You go there and try to sell a project, you are not going far. It has to be an instrument. So I think the discussion has to mature, and some of the contributions that have been made demonstrate that we are getting there. So now it's a matter of just keeping this momentum going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So let me now turn to you, Cédric Montecho, who is the Chief of Business Development, and he's today representing His Excellency Abdullah Al-Mulsahibi, the President of Badea. So Badea has co-financed major African development projects alongside the Islamic Development Bank, the Saudi Fund, the APEC Fund, and others. So what does the Arab Coordination Group's experience teach us about mobilizing long-term development financing for Africa at scale?
Thank you very much. I have the privilege to represent, as you say, His Excellency, the President of Badea, during this panel. And our experience in mobilizing that capital for Africa is through one word, is partnership. We have made partnership not an aspiration, but a method of work. And in Rwanda, in Côte d'Ivoire, in Senegal for the rapid train, and in other geographies, we pull capital together with our Arab coordination brothers, the Abu Dhabi Fund, the Fund of Qatar, the Saudi Fund, the Islamic Development Bank, the Arab Monetary Fund, us Badea, of course, and the Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development. So all these funds that we pull together assist us to make the project rapidly implemented, pull up substantial capital, align due diligence items so that the government or the stakeholders do not face several and conflicting and different paperwork. So this method has assisted us to be successful over the 50 years of our work. And I am also privileged to see in the panel that we have regionalized our presence in terms of strategy. We are shareholders or co-shareholders in the Development Bank of Central Africa, BDEAC here, based in Brazzaville. So we are co-shareholder with the Central Bank. We are in an alliance where we committed $200 million in Niger to help the guarantee funds to deepen the guarantee product toward SMEs. So this was an initiative that we've done with FAGAS, AGF, and the like. And I'm also happy to say that we work closely with ATD also here to assist. So some of the institutions receive seed capital from us. We increase the capital of the Development Bank in each geographies, the central one, the Development Bank of West Africa, of Southern Africa, the development of East Africa. So this is the method that we have found successful over the years.
Thank you very much. For this very rich discussion. So maybe because we're running out of time, but I'm going to challenge you. 4 words, not more. Citez un engagement de la part des gouvernements, d'institutions et de partenaires que vous souhaiteriez voir concrétiser avant les prochaines assemblées annuelles en 4 mots pour chacun d'entre vous. So what single commitment from governance, institutions, or partners would you most want to see acted on before the next annual meetings? 4 words.
Oui,
Il y en a déjà 3 là. 4 mots.
Donc, disons, le développement des professeurs est tellement très intéressant
Oui.
que j'ai voulu placer un mot
Hein?
à la suite de ce que le professeur venait de dire.
Très bien.
C'est vrai que la prévisibilité est assurée par la stabilisation du cadre macroéconomique. Ça a été le cas de la RDC. Mais c'est vrai que aussi les réformes structurelles se plombent et on ne s'attaque pas réellement aux problèmes de fond par rapport à cela. Et je donne un exemple. Regardez la dépendance des exportations des économies africaines sur les matières premières. Ça expose toutes nos économies aux choses, à la volatilité, comme il l'a dit. Et d'ailleurs, une étude de la Commission économique africaine a renseigné que la variation négative du PIB africain est frappée de la baisse à la suite de la volatilité. Pourquoi aujourd'hui l'Afrique ne s'attaque pas à ce problème qui peut justement améliorer les possibilités de lui donner les moyens de financement et même d'accroître les niveaux de réserve? Par exemple, en procédant à la diversification, non seulement de l'économie, mais diversification également des partenaires, diversification dans la transformation. Ça aiderait à résoudre les problèmes que le professeur venait des choses d'évoquer.
Nous avons entendu votre souhait.
Voilà. Alors
Monsieur
maintenant,
le vice-gouverneur.
vous parlez de 4 mots.
Oui.
Moi, je dirais tout simplement l'Afrique
Oui, hein?
a les moyens
Parfait.
qui sont des atouts
Plusieurs.
pour transformer son économie.
Merci beaucoup. Monsieur le vice-gouverneur.
Merci beaucoup, madame. Moi, je dirais aller plus loin dans les réformes.
Aller plus loin dans les réformes.
Voilà,
Bravo.
parce que les institutions existent. Le rapport de la BAD a largement évoqué ce qu'il faut faire pour renforcer et consolider nos systèmes financiers.
Parfait.
L'existant est là, il faut aller plus loin.
Je vais voir qui va gagner le challenge. 4 mots. Monsieur Yambay.
Madame la vice-présidente, malheureusement, je ne suis pas un grand résumeur. Je vous remercie pour la participation. La nouvelle architecture financière africaine, c'est une décision d'innovation. Nous devons intégrer partout et dans tous les sens. Que l'Afrique refuse le mimétisme. On doit inventer nous-mêmes ce qui est bien pour tous.
Très bien.
J'interpelle les gouverneurs de la Banque centrale. Chaque citoyen doit avoir un compte bancaire. C'est un droit de citoyen.
Parfait.
Thank you.
Mr. Moses, 4 words. We're going to see the winner today.
Let us mobilize more domestic capital for Africa.
Great. We're getting there. Mr. Gaggio.
That's difficult for a lawyer, but
Yes, lawyer, it's complicated.
I tend to speak a lot. More integration,
More integration.
clearly, that's very important.
Okay.
The second thing is we have to address those regulatory constraints, and I think Mr. Lopez has gone into the granular level, and I think that's one of the problems. So we definitely need to fix it because we say we have lots of money, but it's not available. Why?
Thank you.
We have to enforce our laws, and we have to reduce the perception of risk through the guarantees.
Thank you. Professor Lopez, 4 words.
Tough. But I will say a sentence instead. No country develops sustainably on the basis of others' balance sheet.
Okay. Monsieur Montecho, vos 4 mots de la fin.
Africa-Arab partnership within NAFA. That's 4. Arab-Africa partnership through BADEA within NAFA through AFDB.
Thank you. A warm round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time and thank you for your patience. Bonne soirée à tous. On va prendre la photo. On va prendre...
Thank you.